I mean, for me, like the last month, okay, I've literally done no, we'll call it what we'll call it, marketing
Yeah.
business in literally a whole month. I've done nothing because of my surgery. My best friend lost her mother really unexpectedly.
Wow.
Just yeah, just a kind of a few other like little personal things. So it was like a really like a month of a lot of stuff going on. And I don't know about you, but like I can't show up online and start talking about my work when I've got all of that going on. It just feels so icky and inauthentic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna have to shelve this until the time feels right for me to
Yeah.
get back out there and start, sharing my work and talking about things again. I
I
think
think
I'm just
that's amazing as well, though, that we've got to that stage in entrepreneurship, whatever you want to call it, that's okay, that we can feel comfortable doing that. Because I know, well, even now I struggle with it a little, but maybe, gosh, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, I would struggle to kind of, I would feel like I had to show up every day in some way, and if I didn't, I'd feel like a flake. And yeah, I'd feel like, the message is always you've got to put yourself out there every single day and multiple times a day. And
that's the thing, isn't it? And I think that that's a trap because the people who are saying that has this is a rabbit hole. It feels like have either done that and it has worked for them, or they're just copycatting somebody else by saying that.
yeah,
But I think as humans, or as these social beings, and seeing how social media is and everything, we automatically see that like more obviously, but doesn't really. It's a myth. Equals more success. So
yeah,
what you put out there, the more you're going to get, right? And I think that that is going to be the case if all of that what you're putting out there is in complete alignment and is in, you know, authentic and true to what you think and your energy and all of that good stuff, right? But if it's not coming from that place, what's the point? Because I don't think that's going to give you more success. So I just think, yeah, I having been in like the online world now in a couple of different areas, I've come to realize that like you've literally just got to navigate this in the way that feels most right for you, because
so much.
there isn't a one size fits all for it. There really isn't.
Yeah, I agree with that so much, and I think modeling it, as you say, is the real key component of that. Because when you model it, it gives other people permission. And I want to say as well that one of my, so there was two things about the social media stuff, is that actually I feel like maybe I'm crazy, but I often feel like the more you post, the maybe the algorithms work against you in some way. Because I've found that if I don't post for a few days and then I post something, I actually get more engagement quite often.
This
Whereas
is
if I post several times a day, it's like it kind of dilutes it.
Yeah. Well, this is the quantity versus quality argument, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And I certainly think that this. I mean, we can talk about this, as creatives. I think this is certainly key as a creative person. I don't know about you, but I just couldn't put out work that I didn't like or didn't believe in, or
yeah,
didn't sit right with me. And I
yeah, yeah.
want to showcase in the best of what I do. And so, therefore, I'm not going to dilute it down with little snippets of the crap that didn't make the cut. It just for the sake of having stuff out there that the algorithm might see and pick up on. And yeah, I'm in total agreement there. I quality over quantity, and
Yeah, and also I think it's funny as well, because coming back to the whole modeling thing, is that I went through a couple of weeks of being really low, and we've all got our cycles, and then there's like cycles on top of cycles, and it was just one where several lows all lined up at the same time. And so I kind of found myself in this dip, and I was like, okay, it's fine, I'm gonna do my thing, I'm gonna be in it, all of that. But there was a few days where I didn't post anything on social media, and then I had this internal kind of argument in my head about, on the one hand, the kind of the demon little voice that says, nobody's gonna miss you anyway.
Right.
And then on the other hand, I was like, well, actually, I feel like, I have these followers, and they do kind of come to see my stuff. So like any relationship, it's kind of a nice thing to say, oh, I'm not around because. So I put out just a really small little thing to say, I'm social media fasting. And I didn't explain it or anything. I just kind of said, this is what I'm doing, taking a few days off, see you on the other side. And I didn't think anything of it. And then when I came back, it was like one of my most engaged posts.
Totally.
Because people love to have that modeled for them, I think.
The permission for it to be that's okay, and yeah.
And to kind of be grown up about it as well. I'm speaking of myself, of and to myself, because there was definitely that thing about, oh, I can't be bothered and who cares anyway. But then the other more responsible part of me saying, well, actually, this is this is something you can share, and that's okay because it's part of your process.
Exactly. Totally.
But yeah, no, social media is coming back to I think the thing you said earlier about, we are in this period, I think, where we can become more and more ourselves, but also create a business in that space where we are more and more ourselves at the same time.
Yes, I think that has been elevated so much, and especially in this last year, because we haven't had so many distractions around us, have we? So it's like everything's just been stripped back to just being you at home in your space, without all of the fancy stuff and the stuff that you could go and do and talk about and take photos of, and all of that. Everything's been stripped right back. And so people who've really stepped up to the mark about bringing their personality into their business, whatever that may be, there's some people who are just really flourishing, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah,
for sure. And I think it's incredible. It's realistically, I have a degree in fine art, but even that, so I graduated in 2008. I really, really struggled to think of a way that I would be able to have a creative career, one which would make me money and I'd still get to be a creative. It still felt at that point in time, even when I was doing A-level art, GCSE A-level art, thinking, oh, I want to go and study art. But then what happens after you go study art? Or do you just become an artist, and what does, and all of that really terrified me. And that's why it's taken me so long to actually pursue a proper creative career. It didn't feel like there were so many options before. Now, because of the online world, I think there's a lot more opportunities to kind of get creative and entrepreneurial at the same time. It's brilliant.
I so agree, and I've loved how you've just seized the bull by the horns this year as well, that you were so challenged because you take photographs in person at really gorgeous, exactly, with physical locations with real people. And I'd love to know how did that kind of unfold for you, how did you get the idea, and how did it all come together where you realized you could do it virtually?
Okay, so full disclosure, I didn't come up with the concept, and this is virtual photo shoots for anyone who has no idea what we're about to talk about. So literally, it just had my 1 year anniversary, because I've got a notification up on Facebook that I did my first shoot on the 10th of April. So it's just a little over a year ago that I did my first one. But yes, quite rightly so. My entire business was just falling apart. I'd only really just started my photography business. I had done like a year of training and hustling, doing a lot of shoots, building my portfolio, and then really it was the beginning of 2020 was like the big kind of launch. Started getting paying clients. All of that was like lining up nicely. It was looking like it was going to be a great year, and then pandemic hit, and it's like stay at home, put your camera away, and don't see anyone. That's it, business over. And I was like, what? It was really, really, I mean, yeah, scary and terrifying. I was literally getting cancellation after cancellation. I was like, I just don't know what to do here. So I'm in kind of a couple of photography sort of forums and was just looking through some of those, and I saw some guy who was doing he was talking about virtual photo shoots and really didn't think much of it, and didn't really look into the concept all that much, but understood that basically you could connect with somebody using their phone. And I thought, wow, might be worth a try. So I literally called up a friend and was like, can you just try this with me and see if it works? And she agreed to, and was actually like, I got the images, downloaded them afterwards, and was just blown away with like actually possible to do.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And the other thing where I kind of like had to do a bit of a pivot was, so I was predominantly doing wedding photography beforehand. That's where I had most of my training with. My mentor was a wedding photographer, and that's the area that I thought I was going to work in. Obviously, weddings were
yeah.
But I guess I'm lucky, and I worked really hard for this. But I had a career in the fitness industry for 10 years previous to that, and the last 3 years were all online. So I built up this reasonably good network of people all around the world, doing all sorts of different things, and a lot of them were small business owners.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, you know what? It's these people who are going to need images during this time. And I'd already had it on my radar that maybe once my wedding business would be sort of coasting a little bit more and settled, I'd try and do more brand stuff anyway. And I guess in a way, this just kind of accelerated that. So that's who I started doing the virtual shoots with, and things have really just built from there. And I've done over 200 shoots in 1 year.
That is bloody incredible. It really is. I think you should be so proud to have pivoted like that and then just really gone for it, you know. And I know that you came into some criticism as well, which fucking hell, you know, we're all just doing our best, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, seriously. And you know the irony of it, like, these same people who criticized me months later are messaging saying,
yeah,
how do you do that?
yeah,
Of course.
of course.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
but also the images that you have created from that are bloody incredible. They're gorgeous. They're so vibrant, and I wouldn't have expected from a virtual shoot, even though technology is so great and camera, you know, like cameras are so brilliant on our phones and stuff now, I wouldn't have expected even then that the pictures would turn out that well.
it's that, I mean, you know what, I do have a lot to be grateful for with the technology in some of these phones, because as that gets better, the quality of images and the vibrancy that you're going to be able to get is just only going to increase. In fact, I was just reading in the news yesterday, I mean, the lenses, this is an iPhone 10.
Yeah.
It's a few years old now, so it's not the top of the range one.
Yeah.
But lens of it literally goes all the way through, right? So it's still like they've made it as thick as they possibly can, but they're trying to create technology now which will just be like a contact lens.
Wow.
Like all of the zoom in there, and they reckon that will be in like less than 3 years. So yeah, the technology is just going to get better, and this is going to be a way that we're going to work. Like I kind of don't have any doubts about that now, having, you know, even the technology with me being able to do my virtual shoots, I use separate software from what I used right at the beginning, which is far superior, essentially.
Yeah.
to use, like remotely use the lens on your camera. So it's things are just getting better and better all the time. And so I think it would be naive if you are like a photographer starting out now to think that you're only ever going to use one of these.
Yeah.
You're going to always be there in front of your subject to
Yeah.
shoot. So you know, it's an exciting time to kind of, you know, get involved and do this stuff. And yeah, I'm really happy. Like I've definitely carved a little niche for myself. But I'm so lucky. Like I've got to work with amazing people, so I'm really happy about that. Like I do get excited when we do our shoots because.
Oh no, I totally get it, and I think, you know, much like myself, you were pushed into it. You know, you pushed into finding more creative solutions, and actually kind of out of that comfort zone of, well, this is how it has to be, because weren't we? We were like, well, this is just how it has to be. And as much as you know, as much as I wanted to like paint all day or whatever, you know, I felt like I couldn't, which is you know, it's like
Yeah, but like, why, like, you know, you can there's so many different ways you can go and do stuff. So
absolutely. And also, you know, I think learning, because obviously I had kids at home as well, so I really had to kind of manage my energy in like so many different ways that I would not have had to do previously, but also would have avoided previously. So previously I wouldn't even have attempted to work if my kids were around, because it just didn't seem possible. And obviously I want to be present with them, but then I have to work as well. So just being able to kind of switch that up a bit more easily and kind of, yeah, not go crazy in the meantime.
I mean, like, hats off to you. I don't know how you did it, because like sometimes the dog is just like super needy, and I'm like, oh, I love you. But and also, like, I mean, if there's anything that you get from like looking at your paintings and your beautiful work, is like just this energy, right? Like it's just so clear how much energy and like emotion goes into each of your paintings. Like it's just, whew, right? I love it. I love it. You just get a good. And so, yeah, for you to be juggling that with like your kids and knowing that you want to give them equal energy too, well, that's, you know, you've only got so much. And so therefore, you know, what's going into the paintings, what's going to them, I like, that must have been quite some days it was like completely out of whack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, it was complete evolutionary process. Like I say, I wouldn't have been able to do it a year ago because I didn't have to. I had to learn how to do it, just like you had to learn all of the things, and as well as, you know, kind of allowing yourself to feel proud of that new process for yourself. You know, because I get it. It's like, oh well, this is maybe easier isn't the right word, but you know, this is different to what people expect. It's not as kind of traditional is the key word as well. Um, but what you create is amazing, and for also to have people during lockdown, everybody who's trying to run their businesses from home, for them to be able to have professional images taken in an easy, fun way was, I think that's pretty revolutionary, because you know, we're all at home in our jammies.
Some people literally.
With our lockdown hair and everything, you know. And but
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's definitely made things a lot more accessible for some people. Some people, like it's been really interesting sort of market research for me with, you know, people who I love, like the types of clients that I really want to work with. Some of them have never done a photo shoot or anything like that before,
yeah,
and then a lot have. And I'm actually sort of a little bit saddened by the negative experiences that a lot of people have had, because it can be such a turn off to then doing anything in the future, because you're like,
yeah,
back to that awful experience that you had. And that's the beauty of doing a virtual shoot, is it's literally, you know, it's you and your phone. And so you don't have that kind of self-conscious, you know, you're in your own space, you don't have that self-conscious thing. And even if you don't like me, like say for instance, we're doing a shoot and you're absolutely hating it, you could just go and switch your phone off if you want, right? That hasn't happened to me yet, fortunately. But like, that's, you know,
Yeah, somebody hasn't like traveled hundreds of, or vice versa, you haven't traveled like a long way to see them, and yeah.
So it sort of, it really does lower that you know, barrier to being able to do something, to get some photos and stuff. And it's a great sort of taster experience to having a photo shoot. And as you said, like the quality of the images is only getting better because of the technology, and of course my direction.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I even had a shoot a couple of weeks ago with a woman who's agoraphobic. She's like, I will never do anything like this, because she's like, literally, she went out to get her vaccine. That's the only time she's been out.
Oh God, wow.
You know, but she's running a business from home, so she
Yeah.
stuff. It's and she's like, this is just brilliant. She's like, I'll be booking you lots. I'm like, great. But it's brilliant to see that I'm able to help people like that too.
Yeah, all the introverts rejoice.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
What do you think your younger self would think about what you've created for yourself?
I think she'd be pretty proud of what I'm doing right now, because it's been such a struggle to, I mean, you know, I studied fine art for 5 years. I did my foundation course, and then I went and did the only 4-year undergrad in the UK. And I came out with a great degree, and didn't have any confidence to go and pursue a career, like a creative career, then and there. And didn't really have the support from my family. And that's not because they're terrible, awful people, but they're all like scientists, mathematicians.
Yeah.
They don't get my world, so they weren't able to help me. And so, you know, I pursued a different path, which I have zero regrets about doing, because it took me all over the world, and I loved it. But like many things, it just came to it came to an end.
Yeah.
Took me probably in truth, it was like 2 years of unraveling, lots of shit hitting the fan, the universe giving me those signs left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Is that a sign? I'm not sure. Is that another one? Is that a sign? You know,
I know that so well, because I was a yoga teacher, and then I kind of went more into doing energy work, but still sort of it being yoga. And so people were very confused, and then taking it online and then taking it offline, and it's just like, yeah.
it's nuts, isn't it? And so I think, but I've always been this creative person. I mean, like this is really sweet. So like where my parents' house, when you walk through the front door, there's a painting on the wall on the left hand side, and it's this uh, it's a crayon of drawing of a fish with like this like the blue behind you, beautiful blue watercolor wash over the top of it, and it won a merit award for Rebecca Wright, age 6 years 8 months. Right. So that's on the wall right there, and then you can kind of also at the same time glance through the doorway into the dining room, where there's a massive print of one of my degree pieces.
Wow.
Like first and last.
Oh, gorgeous.
And so it's really interesting, because like that the creativity has always very much been there in me. You know, my grandparents used to live with us, which was wonderful when I was growing up. They had a little annex on the side of the house, so in their own kitchen. I don't know how many times I drew on my granddad's wall. He paint it. He never would never say anything. Never. Bless him.
Awesome.
Amazing. And, you know, so yeah, the creativity's always been there, but I just didn't for a very long time have the confidence to do anything with it. So I think younger me would be like really proud that I've just given it a go, and now like the shit's hit the fan a few times more with the pandemic and all the stop starting of my business, and now I've managed to figure it out still, and I'm still standing and still going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think actually we're a pretty incredibly resilient and creative generation all round, because my parents were self-employed. They created their own kind of design and marketing based business, and they did really well in the 80s. But it was still, although they kind of dabbled in lots of different things, and it was all kind of under one umbrella, it was still quite a static entity, I feel. And I don't know, I feel like we've had to navigate so many, I guess, with like the rapid changes in technology for a start, and like, yeah, I feel like we've had to navigate more significant changes in having to evolve ourselves and our businesses. I don't know, what do you feel about that?
Totally. I mean, I think it's so difficult to predict like how things are going to develop, and therefore like how you're going to be doing stuff, right? So therefore, like that's, well, if you told me when I was at university, even so, like I was there 2004. No barking. Just going to bark in a minute. Stop growling. Good boy. Um, yeah. So I was there 2004 to 2008. And if you'd even told me then that I would be doing what I'm doing now in the way that I'm doing it, I would have thought you were bonkers,
Yeah.
right? And if you told me, because that was just when Facebook had started, right? I got on whilst I was at uni, which was when we were all posting updates about what we were eating for lunch and
Yes.
who wants to go on a bender this weekend, kind of thing, right? Yeah, right. Becky Wright is feeling sad because the coffee.
Yeah.
Right. And that, we'd be using social media and all these various different platforms online to be either creating work, sharing our message, promoting our businesses, connecting with people all around the world,
Yeah.
right? Like all of that's just kind of like mind blowing to think. If you told somebody then, let alone even 10 years before that, right?
Yeah.
all it's all a bit nuts. So yes, I think we've had to be very adaptive, and that's the thing. You've just got to remain open minded with all of this. I think you can't have a
Yeah.
mindset about anything anymore. Like pretty much anything is possible, and I think that's just the way everything is going, and it's such a quick pace.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like this last year as well is, really cemented in my mind that, first of all, there's a possibility of doing things in a different way, the way that you maybe really always wanted to do them all along, but also that there is definitely, it's so obvious that there's zero certainty now moving forwards, because we could be put into another lockdown in a couple of months. This, it's not going away, but also it's not just this, it's so much is so rapidly changing right now and coming into question as well. And so for me, I really feel like it is just a time to do what you want with
I
integrity, clearly, but yeah, just do what you were put here to do.
couldn't agree more. So like seriously, my fuck it muscle has just
I like that, my fucking muscle.
seriously, I mean, like I have suffered with anxiety, I first got diagnosed with it when I was working in Bermuda in fitness. I was running a studio out there. So that was 2000, end of 2014, beginning 2015 is when I kind of got that diagnosis. And it's all very situational stuff to me, kind of, I then take it on, I internalize it, and I ruminate on an awful lot of stuff. And then I find it very difficult to kind of do anything else. And I know a lot of people kind of suffer like that. And I've had various, bouts of therapy and other kinds of treatments to help me with all of that, which has been great. But this last year, I mean, I really vividly remember I was actually taking the dog for a walk last April. This was before I'd done the first virtual photo shoot. And I'm walking, it was this long path right next to where my parents' house is. I was just walking down there. And I'm like thinking to myself, well, I've got nothing to lose by trying to do something different here. We cannot do the thing that I want to do right now. So the alternative is do nothing.
Yeah.
or just try doing something and fail at doing it, but like, fuck it.
Exactly.
There's, as you say, there's no certainty. And so, yeah, I basically use fuck it now to shut my anxiety up.
Love it. I love it. I love the idea of having a fuck it muscle. We're just going to do that more and more, make it stronger and stronger. Yeah.
Fuck it muscle and a fuck it bucket. And it hasn't arrived yet, but I've ordered a really cool artist here in York. He's got a painting of a fuck it bucket. And I was like, right, that's it. I'm getting that fuck it bucket and it's going on the wall.
Brilliant. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure how old you are, but I feel like it's that classic thing of, since I turned 40, it's really like, I'm just not here for that stuff anymore. I'm here to actually live the life that I have and stop wasting it and all of the insecurities and, the judgment and
yeah, exactly. There's no point. I turned 36 last week, right? But as you know, so in January and March, I did 2 rounds of egg freezing.
Yeah.
Which was like, that's been running in the background for me throughout the entire pandemic too. Like,
Wow.
I just found out my fertility was a little bit on the low side. Probably do something about it. Pandemic hits, my money disappears. What am I gonna do about any of this? Like, dating is a disaster during a pandemic, blah blah blah. Okay. So again, I've got all this like brain chatter going on, and so yeah, anyway, finally come around to do the 2 rounds of egg freezing that I've already done. And now it's interesting because obviously I did that to sort of alleviate some pressure, to finding Mr. Right, to family. So I don't feel that, oh, you better start because, you're sticking, blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting how that's actually spilled over into other areas of my life. That it's like alleviated pressure in other ways, because I now look at things like, well, I'm definitely living more in the present, because not such a, as I say, with that, I look at things and I'm like, okay, well, I've done this, so therefore I don't need to worry so much, right? Yeah. But yeah, I think just in general, like having an attitude of, because we don't have any control, we don't have this certainty, and that's just like a mechanism of our ego, right?
Absolutely. Actually, we never had any certainty. It was just that kind of that ridiculous feeling of it's always going to be like this.
Right. It's nuts. It's totally nuts. But you know what? In the end, most stuff does seem to work out all right. So why do we worry ourselves so much? It's just bonkers.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think as a mom, that's where most of my worry goes. I think in terms of my life, I'm okay now. I've overcome so much that I feel like I've got to a place where I'm okay with how things are. Yes, of course, there's more that I want to do and be and, experience, but where I worry is for my kids and what they'll have to kind of endure or, be put through, or, all of that kind of stuff. And that's where I worry about the future.
Yeah, understandably so. I mean, that's surely, like, I'm not a scientist, but that's got to be like part biological nature.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to be an inbuilt worry thing there for your children, otherwise they're screwed.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, also it is, we are living in this rapidly evolving world, aren't we? And it's it's mind-blowingly quick, and that is scary at times, like the speed of how things are changing and progressing. And I mean, I don't know how you feel about like the education system that
Don't get me started.
well, this is it, right? I mean, I have nieces and nephews, and and I hear about what it is that they want to do with their life, and some of the stuff is just super exciting. And I'm like, well, stuff that you're learning at school is not really helping with any of this. And yeah, so
Yeah, and what I keep coming back to on that is that we have so many more resources available to us to learn now. It's not like, even when I was at school, certainly. Yeah, like, so when I went to university in 1997 and graduated in 2001, and when I started university, the internet was just being born. Basically, it was only just beginning to be used. So in my first year, I distinctly remember the only thing that I used it for was to check emails, which I got, if I got one in a day, that was like, woohoo. One email. And I remember in those first couple of years of my undergrad attempting to use the internet for research, for essays and stuff. And it was just awful. Like, if you did manage to come across some information, it would take hours to load. It was like the whole formatting and everything was awful. And it was just like, there's no point. I'm going to the library. And now, not only are libraries becoming kind of defunct in their traditional sense, but yeah, we have so many rich and kind of multiple resources for learning, so that school in itself, whatever it is for that child, it's not the only thing. And I take great heart in that.
yeah, I totally agree. I think one, like learning, that, as you say, there are so many different avenues to learn and to experience life, right?
Yeah.
And then I also think in terms of, what our kids can grow up to do and be is so much more limitless than
Yeah.
than I think we were certainly, or I was certainly like, these are the categories of things you can do.
I did, I did so many of those, like, what were those tests, those career test things, and it was just, yeah.
Really funny actually. So because I was in LA literally as the pandemic was unfolding, I was in the US, and so I had to get a flight back, and I'd packed all my flat up because my first 5 months of last year was supposed to be traveling, so I didn't have anywhere to live, so I flew back and moved back in with my parents. And we did the obligatory, like every single house in the nation, from what I can imagine, try that initial, let's just clear all the crap out of the house. We'll do a spring clean, and then the pandemic will be over and we'll all be good. We've got a clean house. So that's what me and my mum did. So for a few weeks, we're clearing through stuff, and I found some of those old tests, like the career, I can't remember what it was called, but there was one on, what you should do based on hour-long tests that you had done.
Yeah.
And it was recommended to me that I should be a children's entertainer.
Oh my God.
And we had such a laugh over this. And then like everything else was like super, super serious, but it was
Yeah.
really, like the number one thing that I should be was a children's entertainer. I think my mum was just like mortified that like she paid all this money for this test and that it came and you know, and I was privately educated as well, and like my parents had spent a lot of money on my education. And as a
To be a clown.
and so
No
but
offense to clowns.
but it was just so yeah, the simple fact that you could do, you know, these tests and that then they give you very specific results as to what you do. I mean, can you actually imagine if I took that as verbatim and or you know, I think like the next thing was like I should be like an accountant or something like that.
Oh wow.
These things like I don't know, I think yeah, a lot more sort of like exploration. There's just so many more options for what you can do with your life to make money.
And
Now.
you can make them up as well. I think, you know.
Exactly, that's it. You make up your own.
Yeah. Which was not encouraged, or even, it wasn't even a valid path, honestly. You could be self-employed, but it had to be in a particular area.
Be a self-employed journalist and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? Like with no very little like entrepreneurism, like yes, so having a small business, none of that was, you know, talked about when I was at school. The path was you went to university and then you did a graduate scheme. I mean, I was even sort of tried to be talked off the wall from going to art school. I remember being sat down like, are you sure you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? You're going to be a starving artist.
Yeah.
Great, because I thought it was cool at the time. I was like, great, starving artist. And then towards the end of the degree, I was like, oh, not sure I want to starve, but not sure what else to do.
Well, I taught myself out of it. So, you know, obviously it was all the conditioning kind of around me, but I taught myself. I always wanted to pursue art. Like you, from the time that I was tiny, but through my kind of school path and all the rest of it, I learned that it wasn't valuable. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't like a thing that it's not a real job.
It's not a real job. It's pretty. And like only like these absolute superstar, you know, amazing technical people are like the ones who are going to succeed and make any money, which is utter BS. But yeah, not valuable. It's very, very true. Yeah, because it doesn't, you know, in their eyes, doesn't contribute to the workforce. But it's all changing. I mean, the internet is a great place to be able to be creative, promote your work, connect with people, express yourself. It's really opened up so many avenues. So for anybody who's sort of up and coming in the creative world, there's lots of opportunity there for sure.
I think as well that, you know, for me, that really, I feel like there's so much creativity has been forced out of the pandemic, where I think it's kind of ironic actually, because I feel like it was almost like everything was trying to be shut down and controlled. Yeah. And actually what's come out is people going, oh, I can be creative.
It's only like creative problem solving that has got us out of a lot of this crap.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and you know what, that I can't remember what the actual campaign was, but was it Wishy's blooming campaign to don't worry if you're an artist, you can just retrain.
Oh my god!
You know what, that backfired on him because every creative came out of the woodwork and was like,
yeah,
right, and good on everybody who has done that, because like, you know, we need to stand up for ourselves and not be undervalued, because a lot of us creatives have really problem solved here.
Yes.
And you know, I think it's massively important that you need that brain to kind of think around certain things that some people a logical brain is not necessarily going to see straight away.
And especially when you're dealing with uncertainty and unknowns, so many unknowns, you know, a logical brain just can't work that out. Whereas, yeah, you've got to get creative. You've got to get comfortable in the unknown.
Exactly.
And play. It all comes back down to play, and just
Yeah.
really allowing that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. You just triggered a memory in me. You know, when you're at school, and you, I don't know if you ever had to do this, like when you're really quite little, and they give you like, you know, there's teeny tiny little light bulbs and the light bulb bottom, and then they give you some wires and a little battery pack, and they're like, okay, and now you're going to make the light bulb light up.
Yeah.
Right. And so essentially what they want you to do is make a little circuit, right? So
Yeah.
you might have attached one of the wires to kind of give you a head start, and then you've just got to like kind of make connection and go, okay, well, let's just try putting this one here, little screwdriver, and then, oh, it lights up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So so I took everything apart, everything.
Yeah.
So I screwed the light bulb out of the fixture thingy, took everything apart, and just looked at everything.
Yes.
Right, okay, well, let's put it all back together. So the batteries are in the battery pack. I then screwed the wires to the battery pack and the to the battery pack. I then got the two wires and decided that I was going to just put them straight into the top of where you put the light bulb in, and then just screw the light bulb back on, and it lit up. Same outcome, looked a bit different.
Yeah.
Right? Wrong. It was wrong. I was told it was wrong. And that memory has stuck with me.
Wow.
Wrong. It's the same outcome. It's just done in a different way.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a fantastic analogy for what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think I think there's so many different ways of getting to the same thing sometimes, and just, anyway.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's such a fun, and I love as well that idea that, you know, you saw what at that young age, you saw how it all worked and what the outcome was meant to be, and you kind of bypassed the bit that wasn't really necessary.
Exactly. Don't need those screws, just stick them in the top. I mean, don't go doing that in your house.
Yeah.
Cannot be responsible for any electrical fires. But yeah, I mean, I think as much as anything, it was the being told also that's wrong, or that's not the right way to do something.
Yeah.
Just like, it's just, we especially after this year that we've had, we can't go through life just going like robots, like this is the right way to do something, this is the wrong way, or, you know, this is good, bad, whatever. There's just multiple ways of doing things, and I think, you know, we need to embrace that creative way of like just looking at and solving different problems.
And also just, you know, that whole thing about failure, you know, like that ties into the right and the wrongness of things, doesn't it? And that fear of failure comes as a result, whereas if you see it more as experimentation and play and just, you know, kind of just seeing what happens, then there's no failure, there's just learning.
Exactly. And then you can't like, there's only good stuff comes from like learning and trying stuff, in my opinion. Like, you know, that's doing nothing, just sitting there being a little bit too scared, or just doing the same thing and again. I mean, that's just insanity anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, there's, playing, experimenting, getting messy.
Oh my god, I love it.
That looks for whoever you are, you know.
Oh, do you feel like um what do I want to say? Do you feel like this past year has helped you to really tune into your kind of fundamental practices to come back to self? Um, and do you feel like as a result, do you feel like you're in a place now where you know, you might have been taken off course previously, but now you're kind of more resilient? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know what? I don't feel like I've been taken off Or yes, I was taken off course, but I feel like I've come back to my true course even more than
Yeah.
what I was on before. So, I don't wish this pandemic to go on for another second longer. I really don't.
Yeah.
In many respects, I'm very grateful for what's happened for me in the last year. There's been many elements to it. Like, honestly, this time last year was like, it was crap. Like, the shit
Yeah.
was hitting the fan everywhere.
Yeah.
But you can see all of that shit they were gifts
Yeah.
flying, and like without them, I wouldn't have been challenged to try and think creatively, try other things, meet the people, connect with the people that I have. Uh, and it's so interesting because all of those people, in one way or another, have really allowed me to figure out who I am as a photographer and as a creative, and what
Yeah.
my to get the best out of the people who I work with, which ultimately is like, this is the biggest like buzz for me, is when I get to create an image for somebody and they're like, oh, that makes me go, oh, and that's that's what I live for. And so, without having gone through what we've gone through in the last year, I don't think that I would be the same. I mean, none of us would probably be the same people we are, but I feel a more truer, more happily version of me
Yeah.
than I've probably ever been. And I hope that can continue. Yeah, yeah, I feel a lot more open and a lot more. I mean, I shared my egg freezing story.
Yeah.
I talked about my anxiety before as well. Um, the only thing I haven't talked about yet is my dating disasters.
Well, that's another podcast.
Might be a bit of a comedy one, actually.
Dating
So
during lockdown. Yeah.
um, I do feel like it has really been able to, allow me to reconnect myself with me, and I'm happy about that for sure.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific kind of, like, do you have a favorite tool or technique that you always come back to kind of, when you're in a funk or things aren't, you're tearing your hair out for some reason, what is it you kind of use again and again to come back to self?
Um, I mean, music's really important to me. So music and nature, so headphones on, going for a walk, dog cuddles,
Yeah.
and the beach and the ocean, like water. That's like that's my I feel so at home there. I'm
Yeah.
living in a city at the moment. I lived basically on beaches for like 10 years, and I'm
Wow.
craving that. So
Come to
I
Devon.
I I am supposed to be down that way. Assuming that everything does open up as it should do in a timely manner. I'm supposed to be doing some engagement shoots down there because I have 3 weddings in Devon next year. They
Oh
were
wow.
year, but they've been postponed, so we're going to do engagement shoots this year. So
Oh,
yeah, we'll be in Devon. I'll let you know.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I think nature, music, just being like calm and still, and being by the beach always helps me.
Brilliant. Oh, well, it has almost been an hour already. I can't believe it. But yeah, but I'd love to know what would you say to, like, if you were to travel forward in time, maybe 10 years, what do you think you would say, or vice versa, to your older self?
What I would say now to my older self.
Yeah, what do you think that conversation would look like?
Oh my gosh. I think. Well, I'm just going to assume she's got to where I want her to be. And I would just really want her to know that I'm really proud and really happy that she just persevered and didn't give up hope, and yeah, and just lived her life, just doing what she wanted to do, like just doing her life, and not, saying fuck it to a lot of stuff and just getting on and doing it, because it would be super. I mean, I recognize I'm super privileged, like I'm really lucky, and I know that in many respects I could choose a much, much easier path,
Yeah.
have an easy life, if you know what I mean. Um, but like I know that wouldn't be fulfilling, and I know just wouldn't feel it wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't feel right. So for all of the crap that I've endured, it's totally been worth it, because there's glitter in that crap, and it's made it's made the journey worthwhile. And you, future Becky, you have done so many things that other people just, their jaw drops when they hear you tell the stories. And yeah, so you should be really proud of that. It's been a life that's well lived. Yeah, that's what I think I'd say to her.
Oh, that is gorgeous. That is so, and I wanna come back to what you said about, you could have it easier, but for me, I think again we've been conditioned to believe that, if we've got enough money, if we've got enough things, if all of that, then we should be happy. And everybody knows deep down that that's not true. That, I've been ridiculously happy in the poorest times of my life, where I've literally had, very little at all, and I've been homeless, and I've just been so happy because my spirit has found other ways to fill me up. And I think that that is the lesson that we're perhaps now learning as a collective, that as long as you do what your soul really wants and you follow the nudges and you don't give up, you keep going, then you can't fail.
No, like you can't. It's an impossibility, isn't it? Yeah. You know what? I think that is like one of the greatest lessons that we can teach our kids,
Yeah.
uh, generations, deconditioning away from that. Follow this path, make this money, this equals success. It's just nonsense.
Yeah.
You make up your own idea of what it is that's, success, it's fulfillment, what your purpose is. Only you know those things, because they're just such internal things, and they resonate differently in everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Becky, you've been a joy to talk to. Where can we all find you and your gorgeous work?
Oh, you can find me all over the internet, but predominantly I hang out on the Book of Face. So yeah, you can connect with me there. It's Becky Wright, just my personal profile. I very happily connect with people there. It's where I share most of my stuff. Otherwise, on Instagram, I am Becky Wright _ brand photography, or Becky's _ virtual photo shoots.
Fabulous. Thank you.
My website is beckywrightbrandphotography.com. So yeah,
Becca, say that again, Becca Wright.
brandphotography.com. Yeah.
Cool. Fabulous. I'll put all that in the show notes as well so that people can click. But I just want to say, yeah, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing a bit about you and your story and, yeah, what makes you tick.
Cool. No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Zoe.